We have a very tragic story to talk about, and it involves a COVID death. A COVID death of a sheriff's deputy in Denver. And this death was announced on Twitter by the Denver Sheriff's Office, talking about the fact that he had passed away tragically from COVID complications. His identity, by the way, is freely available, both in their statements and in the social media posts we'll be showing you. But I feel, look, as a person who lost a family member to COVID, while I find this particular story to be very revealing about the effect that COVID misinformation being spread by incredibly powerful people has had, resulting in deaths like this deputy, I still feel uncomfortable on behalf of the family or for the sake of the family, and so we're going to be obscuring the identity. That said, this sheriff's deputy did pass away, and in fact, that department had lost another deputy just 2 weeks earlier to COVID. Now I know maybe you're vaccinated, maybe you live in a part of the country where it kind of feels like the pandemic has passed, that 33-year-olds shouldn't be dying of COVID, but they are still dying of COVID. Many people are still dying of COVID, and many of them are dying needlessly. Now, sheriff's deputies, like other first responders in the state of Colorado, became eligible for the COVID-19 vaccination back in January, and were among those allowed to have vaccines as the very first wave of doses were available in the state. But the shots were not mandatory. And it turns out that, as is true with many, this deputy was opposed to the vaccine, according to public posts on his Facebook page. He posted multiple images and comments about mask wearing and the vaccine. So it wasn't just the vaccine, it was the measures, all of what was being done to stop the spread of the virus. He posted things like, "Before you shame me in public for not having a mask, ask yourself one simple question. Will this mask stop an uppercut?" The joke being that he will punch you in the face if you point out that he's exposing himself to a virus. In response to a comment that said, "Laugh it up as the next wave hits and everything gets closed again, because it's unfortunately we are seeing numbers climbing again. Sorry to be a downer, but it's true." 1 month ago, he responded, "I'm not afraid of the last wave or the next one." And he wasn't. He had been convinced that it wasn't a big deal, but it was still a big deal. In America, a lot of people are still getting COVID. We're gonna get to those numbers in 1 second. I wanted to show you one more image that was being spread by a friend of the network, Ken Klippenstein. He had posted a meme saying, "I don't care if you've had your vaccine, I have an immune system." With the issue with that being that the nearly 600,000 Americans who've died of COVID and the millions of others who will suffer life-changing side effects of having had it, they had immune systems too, and it wasn't enough to save their lives, as it was not enough to save his life. And so he passed away, and he's not the only one. It's not over. 23,000 Americans are still getting COVID every day, or being tested positive for it, at least. Now it is down, but it's still a lot, and we're still averaging 667 deaths every day. Which seemed like a lot when the number was going up, but now that it's going down, people are pretending as if that might as well be zero, but it's not. This deputy is just one of those 667 odd deaths in any given day, and it's looking like, based on what we're seeing from his activity, didn't have to be that way. He was led to believe insane things about COVID, as so many generally conservatives were. And that is how you get to 667 deaths a day. That's how you get to 600,000 deaths overall so far in the pandemic.
So this is mainly to try to help right wingers. So they'll never believe it. But most of the left wing is already vaccinated. Where I'm vaccinated, over 60% of California is vaccinated. We're fine, and if you get vaccinated, even if you get the disease, you'll get a small viral load, and you're very likely to be fine. So we're actually trying to help the people who are not vaccinated, like this officer, but they just don't want it. They don't want our help. They would rather have lies that endanger their lives than to believe the truth. So we're protecting his name, etc., because it's.
We feel bad for the family,
of course, and I feel bad for him. I feel bad for him that he joined a cult psychologically, and that cult convinced him that to almost literally drink the Kool-Aid. And
it did something more.
Yeah.
It also convinced them to tell other people that they are somehow dumb or silly or wrong. if they take care of themselves. And I want us to see how ironic it is that no one talks about not getting a cancer screening the same way. Nobody talks about not going to get a checkup the same way. Like, these are medical things. These are health-centric elements that all of us engage in on some level. But this one thing is so important to some people that they must share their healthcare advice or their indoctrination to the rest of the world and tell people, this is the equivalent of telling people, oh, don't get that prostate exam. Don't do that, right? Or don't get your annual checkup. Don't do that. You don't need to do that. But they're saying, don't wear a mask, don't get the vaccine, and they become part of the ecosystem that creates death. And yes, it's tragic, it is sad, but it needs to be revealed because opportunities like this teach lessons.
Yeah.
And there are people that were around him that believed him. They don't believe him anymore. That's why this story needs to be told.
Yeah. Another brilliant point. I had not thought about it that way. I mean, who would go around going, don't get cancer screenings? You don't want to find out if you have cancer. I mean, that would be the craziest thing you ever heard. And here they are doing the craziest thing you ever heard. And
exactly.
Yeah, I just reminded of John Kerry's line, not when he was senator, but when he came back from Vietnam and it was arguing to end a war. And he said, how do you ask a man to be the last man to die for a mistake? And right now, the right wing, probably the most predominant person in that culture is at this point Tucker Carlson. Even Donald Trump has said, take the vaccine. But
multiple times.
Yeah, but Tucker Carlson is spreading anti-vaccine propaganda nightly on his program. And he's basically asking you to be the last man to die for a mistake. And unfortunately, this officer was one of those men, but he isn't the last man.
Yeah.
There's going to be 667 tomorrow and the day after and the day after. That is imagine if you had 667 people die in a mass shooting in one event. It would be the largest news story for now, I hope. Right, soon that'll become commonplace. But when it happens for COVID, there's a third of the country saying, no big deal, don't believe your lying eyes. And it's okay if our family members die. It's amazing. I've never seen anything like it. It's Jonestown on a mass scale. Thanks for watching the Young Turks. Really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.